Evening, everyone. Today is May the 10th, 2021, and on behalf of the Board of Education, welcome and thank you for joining us for this actually very significant meeting. All of our meetings are very important, but this one is especially important. It's time we're going to focus in on the finish line for the budget, and there are no speakers. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
No.
So that will enable me to turn the entire board's attention to that finish line and to get us there, along with the superintendent and her staff, will be Chairperson Beatrice LeBron. Beatrice, the gavel is yours.
So first and foremost, let me just apologize now because I have my grandson and he's screaming at full speed, so I do apologize. So just for the purpose of this meeting is for us, the Board of Education, to vote on the budget for the 21-22 school year. I know that Dr. Myers-Smalls has a presentation or some remarks that she wants to give. And we're going to turn the floor over. And just as a reminder to the community, we typically don't have speakers during deliberations or for the budget vote. So this is a special meeting specifically to vote on the budget. But Dr. Myers, when you are done speaking, I will then open the floor and do a round robin to all of the commissioners if you want to give your remarks for the record. And then we'll go into voting, and I will be doing roll call voting as well. And then I will pass the gavel back. I'll give some information about the next steps for the budget, and then we'll wrap up this meeting. Dr. Myers-Smalls.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Good evening, President White, Vice President Elliott, to all of our commissioners, staff, and those who are watching both on Facebook and YouTube. As President White said, tonight is an important board meeting, and it is where that the board will vote upon the proposed budget that me and my team have put together. I have just a few remarks, and I promise it will be very brief relative to the proposed budget. As you know, it's almost been a year since I joined the Rochester City School District as the superintendent. And it was a difficult time last year with a lot of uncertainty relative to the budget. And certainly the fiscal stability of the district was unstable. I worked with my team and with the board and stakeholders to really come up with a budget that we believe meets our mission, our vision, and our strategic priorities. We achieved several milestones during this year, including two major ones where our Moody's financial rating went from negative to stable, and that was accomplished in a little under a year. And additionally, we eliminated the need for a RAN, or a revenue anticipation note. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. So tonight, just quickly, I'm going to provide highlights of the general budget, and then highlights from the strategic plan, the fiscal, the academic plan, as well as provide a summary. So let's just give a little bit of context relative to the budget and what went into developing the proposed budget that is before the Board of Education tonight. Certainly the board's education priorities, and that information has come out in board officers meetings, in fiscal or financial subcommittee meetings, the general meetings, et cetera, of letting myself and my team know what is important, both individually and collectively, to commissioners. We received significant stakeholder feedback over this year, which informed our process. And then certainly the strategic plan, which again, I'm thankful that the Board of Education unanimously approved in the fall. We also needed to make sure our budget supported both the academic and the fiscal plans outlined by our state monitor, which we all provided feedback and provided input. We also have the consent decree, which governs our work in the special education realm, as well as corrective action plans. That comes from the New York State Education Department for both special education and bilingual education. So as far as highlights of the budget, really it lays the foundation from a shift from constantly focusing on just addressing the fiscal stability to really making sure that academics are highlighted and are paid attention to. It really also a highlight is that our core belief, that first core belief of students are first and will drive every single decision that we make as a school community. And then finally, it defines that we will make fiscal and resource allocation decisions that are equitable, transparent, and the best interest of students. And I just want to remind our stakeholders that this, again, remember, is a transition or a bridge year. We want to make sure that we're even more transparent, we have more feedback and input. And so this was a bridge year to get from where we were to where we aspire to be. And again, that transparency and feedback from varied stakeholders is critically important. As far as highlights from the strategic plan, which are highlighted in our budget, we first and foremost, if you go to the next slide, we need to ensure that we are focusing on proficiency in ELA and math, that we are working on addressing chronic absenteeism, and we spent a lot of time in the Equity and Student Achievement Subcommittee to address this and to unpack the issues. We want to make sure that we have higher numbers and percentages of students with disabilities in the LRE or least restrictive environment. We want to ensure also that we increase parent and caregiver engagement in special education. We certainly have heard from many stakeholders the importance of fortifying restorative practices and social emotional learning, or SEL. And I mentioned the consent decree as well as the corrective action plans for special education as well as bilingual education. Next slide. In the independent monitor's academic plan, and again, she crafted the plan, but we responded, so it's really the Rochester City School District's academic plan, but we really have focused on in the budget as far as materials and textbooks. We need to ensure that the programs and services that we deliver are evaluated, and we can ensure that they are value-added programs for our students that increase student achievement or other measures. Certainly, we've heard lots of feedback about summer school and learning loss and ensuring that that is fortified and viable, multi-tiered system of supports, and also professional development for all of the new expectations that we have from the state education department, and really making sure that all of our educators are prepared to meet when our students are coming back more to brick and mortar attendance. Next slide. As far as the financial plan, we were so pleased that we've eliminated the revenue anticipation note. And you know, just paying the interest alone on that was over $1 million. So that has been eliminated from our budget. We upgraded the financial management system, and we've had conversations about that, as well as the special education management system. So in summary, we have a balanced budget. It's educationally sound. In my humble opinion, it focuses, again, shifts the focus from solely worrying about the financial aspects to really focusing on academics. It is fiscally responsible. We worked with our board commissioners, Beatrice, Commissioner LeBron as our chair, and the other commissioners asked us great questions and really pushed us. I'm also thankful for the assistance of Dr. Shelley Jallo, who again pushed our thinking and really helped us to get to the point that we were. I also would be remiss if I did not thank our deputy superintendents and the rest of the executive cabinet who worked together and individually to present the proposed budget. Special thanks to CFO Carlene Pierce and her entire team, who worked tirelessly to ensure that we, again, were able to present a budget that was fiscally sound and was balanced for our board's consideration. I'd like to thank Dr. Nelms and his team at the East EPO for partnering with us and collaborating to get us to this point. And certainly I'd like to thank Commissioner LeBron again for her work as the finance chair and pushing us, I think, certainly to new levels and asking us questions. But certainly all of our commissioners asked really great questions, and we do appreciate the collaborative partnership. But I'm very excited to present this budget to you, and it is my hope that at least the majority of you will vote in the affirmative for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Myers-Smalls. I'm going to round robin based on who I see on the screen, and if anybody wants to give any closing remarks before we roll call for the vote. Commissioner Powell, you're on my screen first, actually.
Okay, well, I don't have much to say. I do know that budget season is a highly stressful, anxiety-ridden time for the administration. I acknowledge that, and I know that everyone who's worked on this budget is going to breathe a heavy sigh of relief when we get to the end of tonight. So my vote will be in support.
Thank you. Vice President Commissioner Elliott, you're up next.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also want to thank Commissioner LeBron for her leadership on this budget process. I believe that Commissioner LeBron has done an exemplary job in leading us in this process. And thank you for that, Commissioner. But I would like to make some comments, and that we are mindful of as we move into the next budget cycle and budget cycles to come. I think that we have to look at, and I've said this before, we spend $100 million on charter schools. We've got to look at how we rein those costs in. And that means that we have to be competitive, because our families, unfortunately, they leave us by using their feet. They just leave the district. So we have to look at how we can reduce those costs. I was in the FMP meeting today, and I talked to them about the debt service, that we have to make sure that even with that local share that we have to pay in those, that they are mindful that there is a local share that the district has to pay for. So we've got like $86 million that is allocated to pay for debt service. And then lastly, we have $180 million that we have to pay for employee costs. In fact, more than half, over $500 million, $500 and almost $35 million associated with employee costs. We should be getting a better rate of return on academic success. If we're paying that kind of money to employees, we need to be getting a better rate of return when it comes to academic success. And so I'm holding the district accountable. If we're spending that kind of money, that we need to be getting a better rate of return than what we're getting. There cannot be any more excuses, because people are getting paid very well here. People are getting the benefits, very good benefits. Not only that, but in succeeding years, there's additional money that's going to be coming in, and the issue cannot be that we don't have any more money, that we need all this money. So we've been fully funded through the foundation aid. And so we've got to make sure that Black children, brown children are being educated. Can't be any more excuses, because we've got the money. And so I will just, I will support the budget, but I'm going to be, as they say in my community, tooth and toenail on the district to make sure that the money that we have allocated, that we are really getting a rate of return. I don't believe that this is going to be, that we're going to in the future have endless pots of money. And I come from a nonprofit sector. We don't have this kind of money to just be frivolous with. And I think I'll put this out there. In the past, we've been frivolous. with the resources that we've had. We can no longer be frivolous with it. We have to be creative in ensuring that every child, Black and brown children, are being educated, they are prepared for the 21st century, that they are prepared to go into places of employment. Not only that, but also to start their own businesses. We have a responsibility to make sure that we're educating them such that they can do that. Thank you, Commissioner LeBron.
Thank you, Vice President Elliott. President White, you're up next on my screen.
Yes, good evening. We wanted to say that this is a budget that I think does a couple things. One, it allows us to pay attention and give greater focus to schools that are in need, specifically schools and students in need, specifically receivership schools, students in need of special education services, and our bilingual and multilingual students. I think those are great needs in our community, needs that far outpace those needs in our outlying suburban communities. And so I'm happy that this district maintains its focus on student populations in greatest of need. Additionally, I think that what this budget does, even given the very difficult financial climate we find ourselves in, it allows us to be more efficient, but yet maintain a focus on equity. And that always has to be the mission of any large urban district. We hear that not only in Rochester, but across the country. So it's important that we have a budget that focuses on our needs, but it is also important that we have a budget that allows us to maintain our gains. Notwithstanding the fact that I think there is greater emphasis on our areas of need, I do have an ongoing concern that we grow, but we not lose our strength. Our strength right now is our ever improving graduation rate. It is now at a 20-year high. And that is without regard to the Regents exams or any other factor which people might attribute to our graduation rate. We've maintained a pace of about 3%. My expectation over the course of at least the last 8 years, my expectation, my hope, without my colleagues have at one point in time whispered or talked thanks and appreciation, because this budget was not just put together by folks in the district, although I know those people worked hardest on it. This budget would not have been possible without many people who do not reside or work or spend any time at 131 West Broad Street. We, of course, would have to begin with Governor Cuomo. He signed, I apologize, my computer's talking to me while I'm talking to you all. He, of course, signed the bill that made it possible for us to pass this significantly improved budget. Of course, we cannot forget at the federal level, President Biden. Although I doubt he is listening tonight, I know he has the appreciation of not only every citizen in this community, but also I see a lot of smiling faces. I see Ms. Pierce smiling right now, and other folks, because this would not have happened without our officials at the federal level, including Chuck Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and of course, Joe Morelli. And on behalf of the board, it is important that I communicate our sincere appreciation and thanks for your effort that resulted in the infusion of cash and funds for this district to do the very important work, which I know each and every one of them, let me repeat, President Biden, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and of course, Congressman Joe Morelli. We want to make sure they understand and appreciate our thanks. And then there is, of course, the local delegation. Again, when you talk about infusion of cash and support for the mission of this district, we would all be remiss if we failed to recognize the significant effort on the part of basically a freshman new leaders in Albany who made a promise to us. You guys want to, not you all, my colleagues, but people who happen to be listening, you all want a lesson in civics and the ability of a person to make a difference, high impact right away. Again, what we see in this budget is, make no mistake about it, is the result of good work by Dr. Myers and her team, Ms. Pierce, but let's not get it twisted. It is also the result of people who went to Albany for the first time and said, damn it, I'm going to make a difference. And they did. They made a real difference. And we are all the beneficiaries of that. Of course, that would include Harry Bronson, our senior delegate to the Assembly, Jeremy, Jennifer, and Samara. We have, on behalf of the board, you have our sincerest thanks. Not because personally, of course, we benefit, because we don't, but we know the people that we represent, the children and parents of this community, are the primary beneficiaries of your good work. And again, I want to emphasize the amazing thing that these newly elected leaders did. They said they were going to do something which people have been promising for decades that they would do, fully fund foundation aid, and they did it. So again, on behalf of the Board of Education, hopefully some of our electeds, our local electeds are listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, we have a great team led by our superintendent, Dr. Meyer Small. Leslie, there aren't enough words in the dictionary to thank you for your having come here in a very brief time and having helped us turn a very difficult situation around. And then you picked a team that enabled the district to be in the position that it is today. Ms. Pierce, I'm sure there are so many people that I'm just not going to be able to name. I only mentioned Carlene's name because I know she heads a team of very competent, capable people. And if the board could call out each and every one, and I'm just not that person, I don't have that recall at my age, but really, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your work. Dr. Nelms, yeah, I know you're probably there watching somewhere. Lorna Washington, thank you for your work and all the people that report to the East EPO. You've set a wonderful example of how important it is to be collaborative in the context of a broader district, but also continue to shine your light over there on East Main Street. Dr. Jallo, I see you there, as is often the case. She doesn't, she doesn't talk a lot in these public meetings. She might ask a question or two, but make no mistake about it, and my colleagues know this, I'm speaking to the general public, she is a major impact, has had a major impact on this district. You heard Leslie speak of it earlier this evening. And on behalf of the board, although I know all my colleagues have probably said this to you directly, but I want the public to hear, we do appreciate your role. I know it's a very difficult one. I know we've had disagreements and we will have more disagreements, but that's the quality of a good democracy, when you can come out with a good product after having those disagreements. And this is evidence of a good product. And I don't think there's going to be anybody that would disagree. And finally, no, I shouldn't say finally, I want to thank my colleagues, beginning with Commissioner LeBron. You took on a very difficult assignment. I know over the last few years, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I asked you to chair the Finance Committee, and you said no. And then you decided this was something that you wanted to do, and there's no mistake about it. You went about it, and you did it in your way, and you did it in an effective way. And even last year, voting against the budget, I don't know how your votes got. I'm sort of biting my nails. But I know the work that you put in last year and this year, no matter how you vote, I know you put an effort into it so that the students and families of this district would receive something that they are entitled to. And so I know my colleagues have probably said this to you directly, but I wanted to say it to you personally as well. Thank you for your work. Let me add another thank you, and thank you for your work. It is appreciated because I know a lot of this work that we all do in our various committees is thankless work. Commissioner LeBron has just been focused on this work for the last several months. All of our committee chairs do very, very difficult work, and it's very rare that people recognize them. So, Commissioner LeBron, in this moment, on behalf of the board and to myself directly, I want to say to you, thank you for your work. To my board colleagues, Commissioner LeBron obviously did not do this to herself. There were a lot of questions asked. I see, again, Ms. Pierce smiling. I know she was a recipient of many of those questions, the district's leadership team. A lot of great, insightful questions. I got to tell you, I was a little bit distracted during this budget process for personal reasons, but I saw the good work and the good questions that were asked, and people making it very clear. I know Commissioner Powell would also always say, okay, I just want to make you understand what my issue is. And there were a number of board colleagues that did that. And that's, again, another reason why we have a good budget. To our staff, Thank you, thank you, thank you. We often just deliberate over very important issues, sometimes at the top of the forest, and we don't see the trees and the shrubs and the grass that is below us. And on behalf of the board, I want to say to the staff who often have to take the brunt of the elephants rumbling, as the old African proverb says, in the forest, that sometimes our staff are the victims or feel harmed or hurt by the decisions we make at a different vantage point. And sometimes they don't appreciate the decisions we make and vice versa. I want to say on behalf of the board, even though it may appear that we don't care or that we don't see you, we see you. And our effort is to make sure that you are available to our children. And if at some point you don't feel that, we don't hesitate. We accept your criticism. We're not always able to address it in the way you would like us to, but we do see you. We see you. And we know that this mission of ours, that is of the City of Rochester, the City School District, cannot be accomplished without our staff, our teachers, our sentries, our non-instructional employees, our cafeteria people, our bus drivers, our administrators. We can't do this without you. And so again, on behalf of the board, notwithstanding the fact that some decisions that may be made today by today's vote may harm some people who you believe should be there and continue on this mission, we want you to know, notwithstanding that fact, we see you and we appreciate you. And then finally, Commissioner LeBron, this is finally, I want to say thank you to our community. They not only shared their opinions during the budget hearings, but they also share the vision of each and every child receiving a quality education. And this final point is true. None of this, even with the money from Albany, even with the money from Washington, D.C., even with the creative, efficient, effective ways that our superintendent or team have put together, none of what we want to accomplish is possible without our parents and our students and our caregivers. Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Malloy, you're up on my screen next.
Hi there, can you hear me? Can everyone, okay, just making sure. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Commissioner LeBron for all the work that you've done. I applaud so much of the work done by our entire finance team, by Carlene. Thank you very, very much. Our superintendent. But again, thank you so much, Commissioner LeBron, for all the work that you've put in on this. I can certainly imagine that this was so daunting and overwhelming on all the levels. And so I commend you for this really Herculean task to present us with a balanced budget tonight. I also want to thank the many people involved in terms of legislating or our legislative delegation at the state level. Thank you so much to all our representatives. I do still have some unanswered questions or concerns around what is a very, very complex budget book. But all in all, I am really impressed by a lot of what I see. I do need to understand or have a better understanding of what our actual fund balance is. I wonder, are we moving around money to fill gaps across budget lines with extra stimulus money? How does that all play out? I'm hearing estimates from various sources that this budget book does not include close to $90 million in our reserves that we already have, reflective of an increase in aid sources. So I just need clarification on that. I also need to have a better understanding of our actual health insurance data or expenses for our employees. You know, is it true that although our employees appear to have better health benefits than surrounding school districts, this was really a result of our units moving from a community rating to an experience rating, then to a self-insured health plan. And this has resulted in tens of millions of dollars in savings over the past few years. Secondly, our health insurance increases are about 1/3 the cost of suburban districts because of the creative solutions collaborated with our bargaining units over the past few years. So what are the actual district costs and or savings for employee health insurance, and how does this factor into our budget? I need clarification on this. Along with those questions, I'm also most interested in seeing an increased investment in the restoration of reading teachers district-wide. I'd like to see our AZAR members with a contract, as they're entering year number 3 without one and are not guaranteed under Triborough or Taylor law. The increase is guaranteed to other units. Our AZAR members have continued their work with our students and families during this pandemic, performing their duties under extraordinary pressures, and they're still getting the job done. So what message does this budget send to those members who've had to cut 17% of their staff? You know, we're losing many of our top administrators because of the pay disparities they face compared to other districts. And we need a continued investment in our administrative pipeline. Many of our administrators are burned out. Morale is really at an all-time low. We also need to strengthen our instructional group of administrators, including our instructional leaders, and the hands-on mentoring that they provide our teachers, and where we are most likely to see our biggest impact on the most important people in our district, our students. So additionally, I would like to see the budget more carefully address the need to revamp and revitalize our basic infrastructure as a district. We need to invest in rehiring our cafeteria staff and providing them a living wage. We need to serve our students healthy, warm, and culturally relevant meals. I do echo other board members who have called for more investment in consistent restorative practice and culturally responsive pedagogical tools and training. And furthermore, we need to invest in bolstering our mid-level administration at some of our more specialized schools that fall under single beds codes like World of Inquiry, which operates under a K-12 model with 2 separate bell schedules where there is a severe need of more administrative support. So I'd like to see us then also replicating successful programs district-wide. And I feel that we need to ensure that our athletic coaches, for instance, are paid at a commensurate county rate. Now more than ever, we need increased investment in the arts, especially our music programs. We also need to provide a more comprehensive plan for our ELL student populations. So again, I thank you for your efforts, but I do need more information before voting yes on this budget. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify to the community who's watching, we have 3 budget deliberations. We also have a board question log, which is public on RCSD's website. Tonight will be not in time for questions or answering. So board members could put questions out there, but I would still request that board members submit to the board question log if there are lingering questions. I will not ask administration to answer any questions tonight. This is a board vote. I'm going to continue to call on commissioners. Commissioner Powell, I see your hand is up, but I'm not sure. I called on you first, so I wasn't sure if there's something related to what we're doing right now, or did you need a point of clarification?
I do have an alibi, but I can wait until others have spoken.
Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Great, thank you. I would like to start by indicating that I do agree with most of the comments I've heard here tonight, and also to thank our superintendent and her leadership team. I think they have done just a remarkable job, along with Dr. Jello, because I will tell you, even from the first budget process to now, I've seen a significant gain in the way that we have gone about addressing the structural deficit that this district has. And make no mistake, this district still has a structural deficit. But to reduce the funding, and I think Dr. Jello led this argument, from over 71 million stimulus funds to now down to under 27 million. I think we've done a significant job. I think the team has really done outstanding work on this, but we need to continue to right-size this district, and we need to, and even when I looked at the comments today, right-size it in light of the community anticipation of these additional stimulus funds that are coming in, because they're only going to be 2, maybe 3 years at the most. So we do have some very difficult decisions ahead of us that we need, but I think this budget is a real step in the right direction. I agree with Vice President Elliott. We need to really look at what we can do to stem the outflow of dollars to charter schools. I mean, we're projected to go from 91 million to 105 million in this school year. And I think we have addressed that in ways that we're improving academic outcomes. We're putting supports in place, and reopening the schools is going to also go a long way. But we need to work with the unions. We need to work with the entire community to make sure that we continue to make our schools the premier schools in the city of Rochester, so that when parents choose, they choose the Rochester City School District as opposed to moving out of the district. Also wanted to speak briefly, because we did hear the parents came together, the community came together, and they told us what they would like to see in this budget. Not only did they mention more quality foods for their students, but they also talked about an increase in diversity, increase in people of color teaching in this community. And we know that the way we're headed, once the stimulus funds are gone, even if we do go to full foundation funding, at some point in time, we have to address the declining school population, and that does not lead to increased job opportunities. So at some point in time, if we're going to get serious about increasing the diversity of our schools, we really must address the LIFO system that the state has in place relative to employment in the district. And I would like to see that, on the agenda, maybe for the next legislative agenda. But all in all, I will say Carlene, her team, they just did a fabulous job on this budget. Dr. Myers, thank you for your leadership and your vision and tying this back to the state monitor's plan so concisely. So I feel good about this budget. I feel this budget is a giant step in the right direction. And tonight I do plan on voting to approve this budget. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner LeBron, for your outstanding leadership through this whole budget process. You did an outstanding job.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. I really appreciate it. Commissioner Powell, I'm going to call on you because I'm going to keep things moving.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree with all of the kudos that have been handed out by my colleagues, so I won't repeat them. The reason I put my hand up again is I do want to make sure that our viewing public recognizes, a couple of board members have said that that we're, at full foundation aid. We are not yet at full foundation aid. The state has made a promise to phase in over 3 years. And I want to make this distinction because the state has made promises before. And so I'm not holding my breath waiting for this particular promise to be kept. I think that we have more reason to hope than we have in the past. We do have a Democratic Senate led by Shelley Mayer, who has been a friend to Big Five school districts and high needs districts going back to her days in the Assembly. And so long as we have a Democratic Senate, we perhaps have a better chance than we had in the past when it was Republican-led or Republican plus IDC. But as I said, the promises have been made before to phase us in, even before foundation aid. Before I was even a board member, there was an effort to make high needs districts whole, and that didn't come to fruition then. In fact, that's what gave rise to the CFE case in the first place that led to the contract for excellence and the foundation aid formula we have today. So just to set the record straight, we won't be completely whole for another 2 years after this. And there is reason to be hopeful, but we need to be cautiously optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, actually, for that clarification, because I know some of my remarks tonight obviously do include thanking our Dr. Myers, Dr. Myers Smalls, our superintendent, Carlene Pierce and her team, our CFO and the finance team and the auditing and accounting and all the folks that worked very diligently putting this budget together and making adaptations. But I do want to share that I will be voting yes tonight with my colleagues, but I am also voting hesitantly yes, and I want to be very clear to the community as to why. I still share some concerns around bilingual education. And I know that we have a state corrective action plan, but I definitely plan to work with Latino leadership in the Rochester community to make sure that this district is doing all it's supposed to do, not just only with the correction action plan, but that we as a community are also pushing in the district in that effort to make sure that that corrective action plan is in place. I definitely share some concerns still around any cuts to RIA, although I fully understand that there is a corrective action plan to better service all of our multi-language learners across the entire district. I would prefer that this district is proactive versus reactive. And so I just want to put that on record, and I still share those concerns, but I do not think that tonight's vote will be the end of those conversations and opportunities in the future. And just to let the public know, we do often amend the budget. And this year we created a budget transfer policy. So if there's large sums being amended into the budget, it will go before the board and the community. And so it'll be a more transparent process around those things. And then finally, I had some hesitations around the fact that we are passing a budget without the federal American CARES Act dollars. And so those dollars are not reflected in this budget. And so as Commissioner Powell also said, we also don't have full foundation aid just yet, but we are also still waiting on these CARES Act dollars. So again, they're not here yet. We cannot legally budget with dollars that we don't have here today in our hands. And so it is a very confusing budget this year. I know I've talked to many people in the community trying to follow along, and then you hear tidbits that we're getting all these dollars in and you're not seeing it truly reflected yet in this budget. This is why. However, I have spoken with the superintendent about being transparent with the community, and she's agreed to on when those dollars come in, what the government has said we can and can't spend those dollars on, how the district intends to spend those dollars, but also have some public input sessions so that we can get some feedback from the community as well on how those dollars can be spent. And I want to acknowledge all of the community members who have come out through the budget deliberations already to start speaking and advocating for those dollars. Those comments are public record, and we certainly will go back to those, but also want to encourage other community members when we do have this public hearing on the American CARES Act dollars and how the district can and can't spend them, that you sign up to speak at that hearing. So that date will be to be determined. So with all of those things, I also want to thank my parent rep, Rebecca Harrington, who has been an amazing parent rep, like above and beyond most parent reps that I have personally worked with in the last couple of years in the district. Not just, if you look at the board question log, she submitted just as many questions, if not more, as myself. And so I commend her for that, because I know that she's juggling littles at home and, running a business and keeping a family, and like trying to also be actively engaged in this process and meeting with other parents to get their questions and their feedback. So I wholeheartedly thank you, Rebecca, for all of your hard work during this budget deliberation session. And again, just remind the community and yourself and other parents that this is not the end all be all to this budget. We're voting tonight. And then with that, I'll talk about what happens next. And then I see that Commissioner Adams has joined, and I'll see if he wants to give some remarks. But what happens next is we vote tonight, and then the district transmits the budget over to City Hall and City Council. They then have the budget for a couple of days and weeks. We have a joint budget session June 9th with the Rochester City School Board, the superintendent, her administration, City Council, and the administration at City Hall. And that will be live streamed, most likely through the cities, because it's their budget deliberation, they get to ask the district and the administration questions about the budget. And then June 15th, City Council votes on the budget. So the budget technically and officially will pass tonight if 4 or more board members vote for it. But there is a symbolic vote that happens with City Council, and that is going to take place June 15th. So again, I'm voting yes, hesitantly. However, I have shared my concerns directly with the superintendent and trust that, you know, we have come to a good place of what we will do moving forward, next steps, and CARE Act dollars. And so with that, Commissioner Adams, thank you for coming. I know that you were not feeling well, but did you want to give some remarks?
Yes, I did. Thank you. It's really not a question of not feeling well. It's probably a question of feeling too well. I went under, got drugged up, had a procedure today, and I needed for the community to know that I wasn't ducking the budget vote. Let there be no doubt about where I stand with this vote. And the night doesn't end my advocacy for pre-K, for SSOs, or for restorative. Throughout my last days or months of being on this board, that will always be my advocacy. But I will be voting in support of my superintendent. And I just would like to give a special thanks out to Commissioner LeBron. You was, you don't know how much you've done as far as keeping me stable in this whole process. And so I just appreciate that effort that you put in for me in this community. And this whole community that I deal with have all told me to give you a shout out and a thanks. And with that, I agree with a lot of stuff that everybody said. Ain't no need of me trying to go through all of that, repeating what's been said 273 times. With that, I'm done. Thank you for the time. I'm not going to be able to stay on here either.
We're about to go into roll call right now. So give me one quick second, Ms. Adams. I'll have you vote first if you need to go. So thank you all. I also do want to thank my colleagues, and I would be remiss if I did not thank Dr. Jallo from the state, and the state as well, actually, because it has been a very tumultuous budget process, a year, not only because of the pandemic, but as President White mentioned earlier on, just the start of this budget year. You know, we were in the search of a new superintendent, got a new superintendent, COVID was, school shut down. So we've gone through a lot, you guys, through this budget cycle, more than people probably recall at this moment. But personally want to thank Dr. Jallo, who has been a very solid support for the district since she's gotten here, to myself and to my colleagues, and I'm sure the superintendent and her team as well. So with that, I'm going to go straight into roll call for the vote. Commissioner Powell, you are still first on my screen, so I'm going to roll call you. Or okay. Actually, does Talia do you do the roll call or do I do it? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but you would go. Mm-hmm.
I started. Commissioner Powell, you're up first.
My vote is yes.
Thank you. Vice President Elliott, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. President White, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Malloy, your vote?
It's a no.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm a yes as well. Thank you. And with that, that concludes. Did you record all the votes? Thank you, Clerk Kalia Wade. Oh, I do want to say, Van, before I turn the gavel over to you, that I forgot to thank Kalia and our board staff, who honestly have worked round the clock. People do not know. We get emails. I get emails sometimes at 3 in the morning from Kalia. I promise you, our board staff is working round the clock, especially around budget season. So thank you, Kalia. Thank you, Francine, and thank you, Rahima, for all of your hard work and dedication. But Kalia, thank you especially, because I know you be working. So with that, Van, I'm turning the gavel over to you.
Well, there's only one thing that I have left to do, which is to adjourn the meeting or call for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I see Vice President Elliott has made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I think Commissioner Clark is saying, yeah, let's get out of here. And so let's go ahead and take a vote on their motion. All those in favor of adjourning and going home and saying a hearty good night to everybody, including our staff, the central office team that put this budget together, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.